true self.
Yes, 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 yes. You are in tune with Cosmic Root Show this evening. Yes, this is Brother Siayome live and direct. Yeah, I've been off for, well, some other things for the last past two strongs, but I'm back here, and yes, got another, deeper show for you, and yes, I'll be back with you shortly. Yes, greetings, y'all. This is Brother Siayome, aka Cosmic Mystic Ab Onkarem. Yes, you are tuned to the Cosmic Roots Show this evening on Bless Radio 1. Those of you who are tuning in via, if you're tuning in via YouTube, then you just go to the Bless Radio 1 channel and type in Bless Radio 1 Siayome, and you will have the show up live on there. If you're dealing with the internet, you can type in www.blessradio.org. And if you're tuning in with the TuneIn app, you seek out Bless Radio, one word, and you will see a logo of the Flower of Life. That indicates that that's the channel that you're tuning into. That's the correct one. So, yes, Bless Radio, Know Thyself channel, and the Cosmic's Root Show is cosmic reality of our true selves or one's true self. And wow, how am I gonna do this show this evening? Because a lot's been going on, and energetically, those aware, sensitive to those deeper energetic emanations that are ramping up and coming forth. Physical symptoms as you feeling a bit laggish and you want to rest, or you feel this drawing more within. I mean, there is also a lot of symptoms where things are coming up to be purified, coming up through the heart. Dealing with the Pluto, Saturn retrograde, Jupiter retrograde. We just had a new moon in Taurus, starting or activating the new cycle of this Uranus energy that has now just moved into Taurus. So everything here is telling you deep transformation and transmutation of old structures in consciousness that has basically been the theme, you hold within, that's been manifesting, being the manifestation of your beliefs, calling this reality what it is. These have been based upon the inner structure of consciousness that Saturn represents, this energy. Now you hear a lot of things talked about some of these planets mythologically. You're going to hear a lot of conspiracy things about what Saturn is, the Canaanite deity, the god El. You're going to have things about, Pluto, the deep dark, and, underworld and all of that. Now, the thing is that all of these things is allegorical, metaphysical, or metaphorical, as well as metaphysical. And these are basically deeper truths of what's taking place, the real origin within your, taking place within your consciousness, and the psyche being the membrane or the mediator between the soul consciousness and your human consciousness, which is being conditioned by what you have called the ego. It's become called the ego, this human consciousness personality. Well, just starting and just going into this way, because there's a lot I feel energetically within me and things been going on that I want to, it may be helpful for those maybe going through some similar stuff, or here's some tools, or here's some insight, But there is a big real inner, you could say, tussle going on, which is manifested on the external. Because when you're looking at the TV, the politics and what's not, it'd be better to realize that that's something being projected on the screen, right, of your mirror, and symbolizing stuff in yourself you need to purge. Because what's going on here now is you can look at it and see that this is a big purification, big purge, all the stuff that is being denied and resisted, suppressed, all of the distortions of what has become called facts or history or beliefs. All of these things bringing up, it's like a deep, I would say it's that plutonian energy of a big volcanic eruption taking place under the deep, deep depth of the ocean. So you're dealing with fire and water energy, but what's representing the deeper core, the deeper core impulses of your being, So these energies are coming up from the soul level of oneself to purge out and purify and liberate oneself from what has been known as, in ancient times, the fetters of the soul. The fetters of the soul is the magnetic, emotional bonding and rejection reaction to life, which is coming from the hidden in the ego drive and what you call the personality. And you're dealing with a society that seems to really talk very much about the personality. Even individuals, when they're there to describe themselves, it's just their personality, this person. And, I've said in many different shows back that how the roots of various words are very interesting to go into, because this is how you break a spell, by understanding the word at the etymological level. So you can, how you can say, reconstruct or deconstruct, decondition your the information you are believing in that becomes the structure, the inner structure of your individual consciousness that then manifests your reality. You can look at these words and realize, how you've been conditioned to assign illusionary meaning, you can say, misfitting meanings and terminologies to the very words you use in your language, that whatever language that is, you're using the language you speak with to think with. And this thinking is structuring, is where your beliefs are being structured from, which creates an emotionality and a mentality that, if acted upon, then the behavior. And this is how the manifestation of your beliefs occur. So I was saying about these words here. So, when we look into what's really taking place, when we're looking at persona, it's the mask, okay? You look it up, it's the mask. So the mask is your conditioning. It's what you're identifying with. And it's also to understand that thoughts arise from congenital and planetary vibrations. What I mean by congenital is that, inherited thoughts. We pass on, our parents, our foreparents, they had a certain way of thinking or beliefs that they held on to. And coming from this construct, this society that you're seeing in the bigger picture, if you want to say, when I say bigger picture, if you look on the outer screen, you see a lot of things taking place in the so-called outer world. I've got a visitor with me this evening, so we're going to be bouncing back and forth. It looks like Brother Jammers is in the house. So, like in a moment for my brother to sit down and, introduce himself and so forth. And, and then I'm going to go into, the discussion this evening. And, with these changes, so I'm going to hit into planetary. I'm going to talk about spiritual. I'm going to read some little abstracts or from certain bibliography, because it looks like a lot of people like bibliography and some what you call scholarly book, information to support certain, how you could say, developing and establishing points of view, okay, in order to be able to tune into it and understand that a point of view is also another way of saying a belief, okay? And a belief system is very systematic, okay, for that belief system to become a consensual type of idea that is downloaded or absorbed when we are young, when we come in here, incarnate into a society, that the foundation of the foundation that society is being built upon is now what's coming under serious, I could say, transmutation and deconditioning from within. But what we're seeing is the external effects, the eruptions. Like a volcano, the eruptions already taken place inside. Yeah, the fire is already bubbling. Yeah, but you're not seeing it until it emerges from the inside out. Okay, and then you see, whoa, the lava pouring through, and the explosion and everything, and the smoke and all of that. And that's when you say, oh gosh, that volcano's alive, or that volcano's erupted. But the volcano was already, it was internally in a dormant or very deep state of activation or activity, but it hasn't emerged to the surface yet. So when you look on the outside and you see the activity of what's taking place, you can look at it as an analogy in the same way, similar to when we talk about, what's coming from within is reflected or projected as a reflection on a mirror. And basically why I've gone into it in this way, why I'm saying is that a lot of the planetary energies, the Pluto, the Saturn going retrograde in Capricorn, you got Jupiter going retrograde in Sagittarius, you have this full moon that we just had on the 5th in Taurus, which is activating the new cycle of the Uranus transit, going to be in Taurus for the next 7 to 8 years. Now all of these energies, and then you're going to have later on Uranus is going to go retrograde, say around maybe I think June, July. But these planetary transits and energies, you have to remember that if you've got the whole universe inside of you, if you can align yourself with that more expanded point of view and are able to, think through and disentangle yourself from the societal conditioning, from the religious and cultural belief systems that we have been born into that have their limitations. And as I said, we have, our parents can pass on those things to us. And it's for the generation now, like my generation, we questioned more a lot of what our, foreparents, our parents, and parents before might have questioned about, what we would say, the Bible or religion. You see what I'm saying? Yes, we have old traditions and cultural frameworks within that superimposement of the societal conditioning of your consciousness when we're talking about the Western patriarchal society we're living in today, which has shaped our viewpoint or perception about ourselves that affects the reality you experience, and this knowledge coming up and what's coming through, it's inundating, now you got your YouTube and your Google and stuff. I mean, I ain't the only one talking about this stuff. At the same time, there's those of us, as myself, have been talking about this stuff for 30 years, when we first was feeling that intensity of the wave coming through. Now you don't seem so silly or so out there now that you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google and even various so-called quote unquote respected scientists and breaking away from their field to use their knowledge to actually assist in raising the vibrations of humanity and expanding people's consciousness from out of the old paradigm and the old structure in consciousness that has been very material and Western patriarchally designed. Okay, and I would say man-made, but I don't want to leave out the women in this because it's man and woman-made stuff as well. When you're dealing with, man-made laws and these forced perceptions and separation from yourself, from source. So what we're having is the fact that with these planetary movements of these archetypes, which are really within you, and to know thyself is very beyond the conditioning of a lot of the things that many people on this planet, on the earth plane, identify with to believe is true. Who you are is beyond all of this conditioning, and it's a hard and it can be a very heavy thing for many to accept or open up to, because I was mentioning about the ego. The ego is the personality, and I don't even like talking about ego so much because a lot of people do talk about it, and it can be a thing where it's like, you're criticizing this, criticizing that. We all have an ego. But the thing is, it's like we all can say we wear clothes, but we're not the clothes. The clothes has its earthly purpose, but the clothes is not whom and what you is. But you can be conditioned by what you wear. I'm going to bring Brother Jammers in here, reason why, quickly, because when I said clothes, we can also have, be conditioned by our clothes. Long time, a little while back, this was last year, Brother Jammers, who you're going to hear now, he's written a book called Etymology. And he's gone through his various own experiences that has had to make him go deep within himself to activate this other aspect with, this other side, this the more of the infinite potential we carry within ourselves in order to bring through this way of, consciousness, emerging through his awareness. And, we have our different ways in how we approach words, and that's all good. There was a thing he said about clothes, because you can have people who have a closed mind, but it's also a clothes, as in cloth, clothes, the clothes we wear, and when he said that, I was like, that's really good, bro. I felt that,
Respect.
I felt that, and it does describe a kind of the condition. You see what I mean? That we're dealing with now. Some folk don't want to take off them clothes. You know what I mean? They're so identified and attached to this, to the clothes, which it closes their mind because it's clothed with the conditioning. Brother Jammers.
I think you broke it down even better than I did. So respect for that, because a lot of people don't give back the credit. So I really appreciate what you just said there, and it's brought it back into my thought process as well. Yeah, exactly what you just said there. Is that we and you broke down to me about the identity.
Right.
Well, even you broke down that we haven't really even got an identity. So I know, just conversing with you, it opens my spectrum. You know what I mean? So, and when you said that, it just triggered off some light bulbs in my head. Basically, as you said, if you can break down identity for the people who don't know, then I can go into the clothes thing. So if you could break it down.
Okay, well, I was saying on some few shows, I did actually 2 shows on it, like what is identity, and I was going into the words, like we use words, but a lot of us don't really go into the etymology, like to know the root of the word, because I think that's very important. You're using a language, and that language you speak, you use to think with. Those thoughts are also contributing to the emotionality that begins to get generated from those thoughts. Those thoughts become part of a belief system. You see what I mean? And so we use these words and identity and culture, very, very intensively and very, very purposefully. But at the same time, it's like you're using a word to describe something that the word don't mean. It's like using the word knife to describe a screwdriver or a can opener. It's cool. It's like yeah, give it an analogy like that. You know, you're using the word screwdriver to describe a knife, or you're using the word tomato ketchup to describe potatoes. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like what that's off stuff, right? Because you need to have a comprehensiveness to be able to comprehend. You need to have a certain cognition, coherency to be able to comprehend what someone's saying. Now, I know words are limiting, and we get caught up in the intellect, and, you know, the society seems to praise the highest intellect. He wants you to worship the highest intellect, you know, but you see, who we is and the reality, the divine reality, is beyond the intellect. And the divine reality resides within us at the deeper level known as our true self, which is the soul. And the soul is even a metaphor. And how soul links to sun, and, you know, solar, you know, and how the metaphor of light or fire or flame has been used to depict the soul. But the soul is consciousness, and it is, you know, when we're going to talk about our identity, I mean, this is the depth we need to get to. Get deeper into our soul rather than on the surface of the personality and what we're using to identify with. But the word identity actually basically comes down to mean sameness. And sameness is also what you would use to derive oneness from, you know? So when you're dealing with the word identity, I was saying earlier, you know, that the sameness, the word, that's why you use the word identical twins. Yeah, the term identical twins, because they look so similar that they look the same. Okay? So you can see the correct usage or the harmonious usage of the word identity, meaning the same. Now, I know we can get all creative or harshly destructive with words because we can, you know, you get all this slang and all this derivation of the terminology of words out of the context that they were in before. Like, for example, you know, in the youths today, you know, you got a certain term like called sick, you know, but that sick is supposed to derive, supposed to be now meaning something's great. Something's like, wow, man, that is brilliant. Okay. But sick is still sick, you know. You know, many people are sick. Sick is you could say the opposite of health. But then, you know, you get folk who would think that, okay, look, we got to turn a negative into a positive without understanding that you only turn negative into positive through mental transmutation, not the continual corruption of words or language that creates more disconnection when you're trying to communicate. Because if you don't understand that jargon, like the youths kind of slang, even when I was growing up, we had our own little kind of stuff. But the thing is that if you're speaking to people who are not off that type of, hang around those type of people, or you didn't grow up with that type of those terminologies to get it, then you go speak to people who's not familiar with that. They ain't gonna make no sense to you. They're gonna think sick is sick, illness, simple as that. Not that you're giving them a compliment. You know what I'm saying? So the word identity can come into these type of things, just like wicked. Wicked is wicked, man. But we would use the term wicked, you know, it just says something great. Wow, that's sitting rude. And look at the word rude. When we was growing up, the word rude meant say you was unruly. You know what I mean? And you would get reprimanded by your parents because you're rude. You know what I'm saying? And then now rude become a thing that you want to be. Rude boy. You know what I'm saying? So you become a rude boy. Because rude boy don't play by no rules. Rude boy rude. Him broke rules. That's why my house I get licks. You see what I'm saying? So we then turn these things into, we think it's positive. But if you're still dealing with a conditioned mind that doesn't know itself, you're enforcing the ignorance that you're still keeping yourself entrapped in, or enforcing misunderstanding in one's coming up under you, listening and watching and copying what you're doing. You see what I mean? Because it's vibration. Everything is vibration, and vibration can't lie. See? And when you're talking really and using these words out of context, you see, it compounds the conditioning. It compounds the illusion that you're in. Now, some people, you know, there's going to be people that ain't going to agree with that. And this is the whole thing. Everyone's got different points of view. But more times people would say, it's not a point of view. It's a belief. Me have conviction in what I believe. And the thing here with this is that, yes, it's conviction that actually sets in motion, you know, establishes the inner structuring within your consciousness of that belief. Okay? So that creates an inner structure in your consciousness. And then from that builds up, because through the conviction, it sets up an emotionality and mentality where your now behavior is going to be in alignment with that belief. Because no one behaves, or you don't have emotions as such. Some people say, oh, emotions are different to feelings, and we can get all pedantic on that. But they are interrelated, like two sides of a coin. And you have to understand this. Because some people suppress their emotions and don't realize that, man, that kicks into your feel. You know what I mean? Yeah. Emotions and feelings are two sides of the same coin. You have to understand how to work it. But the thing is that you don't ignore it. And what's happening is that you get a belief sets up an emotionality. It sets up a mentality. And then from there, if you act upon it, it conditions your behavior. And then it's from the action that you manifest now. Your belief is going to become materialized, reflecting how you believe, what you believe, because you're behaving some way because you believe a certain thing. Another way of saying it, I could be thinking about the light. Oh, the light in the room and so forth. I'm thinking about it. And I could be thinking like, yeah, if I switch this on, it's going to illuminate the place and I'll be able to see what I'm looking for to find more easily. But I'm just thinking about it. Unless I take the action to flick the light switch, the light ain't coming on. And that's what I mean about action. You can have the belief, the belief of the light. You have an emotionality that's set in motion. You have a mentality about it, how you feel about the light and how you think about this light. But then when you act on it, you're going to manifest, the effects of your belief, because the cause is from within you, okay? So it's only when you flick the light switch, now you manifest the thing. You act upon something. So what I'm saying is that you can explore a lot of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotionality and the mentality. You can explore that. You can have certain thoughts as wild as they are. And you can explore that in order to discern for yourself what you prefer to what you will then now act upon. But it's only when you act upon it, you manifest it. Okay? Now, it seems like I've kind of gone off a bit to what I was saying, because I was going to bring down the word identity. Okay? And I should have done that quickly. But sometimes there needs to be background behind what you're saying for our listeners who haven't maybe tuned in before to understand, okay, now I'm recapping. They can pick up, from that on that point. But identity means sameness. And I was saying that, therefore, what we're using to say is our identity doesn't qualify the meaning of the word. Because if it's going to be skin color, well, we're all not of the same shade. And when we use the term black, these are kind of labels others have coined and quoted on top of us, which then adds to that conditioning. You see what I'm saying? A lot of folk know this, but yet we will still get caught up in false terminologies, labeling to identify. For example, you got countries that's been, the countries that have been in Africa that's been colonized. You got places that have been given names. For example, you got you got a country in Africa which didn't exist before the Berlin Conference in 1884, 85. Between that, this is when you had the colonizing, the separation of the continent, and you had all these countries now being created which never existed before. But here's the thing about identity. When you now call, like for example, the word Nigeria, the Western Europeans call that place Nigeria. And then you get a term then turns into Nigeria. Now the people of that region never called themselves that before the colonization. But however, that now becomes an identity.
Is that really that's where the name comes from?
This is what. Listen, I'll say Senegalese. You'll have people say I'm Senegalese, right? But when you look up the meaning of the word, it means boat. It's one of them long, thin boats. Yeah? And basically what you're saying, the word Senegal means a boat, okay? But when I said not any boat, it's one of these specific type of shaped boats, designed boats. But it still means boats. You go to Cameroon, right? And Cameroon, it's a color, red. But that was called by the Portuguese because they found a whole heap of shrimp would be around the coastline of that. And that was kind of, profitable. You could make money out of that. Holy Picassion shrimp. People eat shrimp. So they capitalized on that. But the point I'm saying is that place then got called Cameroon. So people are calling themselves Cameroon. I mean, you're red or red off the shrimp. You know what I mean? All right, something a bit more closer to home for most of us. Jamaica. Jamaica used to, you see the spelling of the name Jamaica, J-A-M. You see with a J. It used to be with a Y. Okay. Now the thing is, the word Jamaica breaks down to mean land of wood and water. So now, my folk, I could say I have Jamaican heritage, both my parents, right? So Jamaican, Madagascar, Jamaican, Ghanaian, Jamaica, all right? Which you could say is South America, yeah? And a lot of Jamaicans do take residence in, New York or North America. But the point I'm making here is to say I'm a Jamaican, if you go to the word, it means land of wood and water. So am I saying I'm lander? I am land and wood and water. You get what I'm saying? Now, if you want to do gymnastics with it, you can say, yeah, but we contain it all. So yes, man, we have land, wood, and water in way. Okay, yes. But you see, you'd have to be expanding your point of view and seeing that, well, this is beyond, you can't limit your identity, this sense of identity, sameness, upon such terminologies. Okay? So the point I'm making is that the word identity means the same, and we use the term identity totally out of its context, because what we're using to say is our identity does not make us the same. We don't have the sameness. You see what I'm saying? You with me as well, my brother? Yeah. There's no sameness in this. There's diversity. There's difference. Yeah. And the thing is that there's a certain idea with identity that it's like we mustn't acknowledge difference. We must all be the same. And you see, now that becomes another out and out mind control thing. Because we're not here to be all the same. We are not clones of one another. And you look into the continent, for example, of what is called Africa, there's a diversity amongst all the people who would consider themselves Africans based upon being on the continent. But they don't use that as their overall identity. You see, it's keeping things in its context. And when things are taken out of context and communicated out of context, you get distortion. And then that distortion, when turned into a belief, yeah, you got the power to make an illusion real. Yeah, because your consciousness is the creative force. And yet it's only recently in the last kind of, you can say decade, you're hearing this term consciousnness being used more and more, even though it was a term that was used all back in the 1920s. Okay? When you're dealing with, all of those from the Western, Max Planck and these scientists and all of the relativity and with Einstein and your Nikola Tesla and Max Planck and all of these folk from a Western point of view, because there's more scientists in the world, who ain't just Western, but we seem to have a kind of like this Western science is the authority of any science, you know what I mean, to come through for you to kind of say it's credible. But identity means sameness. And why I'm saying is that we are getting all caught up in these false identities. For example, with the colonization, you have people, look, before they named Zimbabwe what it became, before it was called Rhodesia. And that was named after a guy named Cecil Rhodes. But the people who live in that place, they're being called Rhodesians before that. Now they're called Zimbabweans, yeah? But do you see about these names and identity? You see, this is crazy stuff. A lot of folk don't realize this. How these names come about. And you're calling yourself that. And you're saying, this is my identity. And identity means sameness. And there's no sameness in what you're using as your identity. You see how deep,
See it down.
Do you want to come into this?
Yeah, boy. Well, I don't know. I need you already maybe have to write a lecture just to come in on this one. I can see why enough people are frightened to come on your show still. But what you said is key, because what is key is anti-natural.
Yes.
When you don't want to endorse the fact nature, if you don't see nature as the order, and as you said, nothing in nature is the same.
Look at that. Yeah.
Nothing in nature is the same.
The diversity amongst plants, trees, flowers, fishes in the ocean, different forms of herbs and bush. Yeah, even different species of trees themselves. Yeah, we have diversity. Okay, so that diversity The diversity. All right. The diversity is something that it gets. You see, look, you have a polarity. If you have sameness, then what would be the opposite of sameness?
And that's what you've done. Is what is this? This is a psychological. This is the first thing. Basically, nature has an order, you know, and if you follow the order, then you're practicing balance. If you're not following the order, then you're going to be in imbalance. So if you're mentally in line with nature, then you're balanced. If you're not following the order of nature, it's a mental disorder.
There you go. And with that mental disorder, meaning no order, so there's imbalance. And mental health. Health means wholeness. And you have a lot of mental illness. And again, when we use words and terms, it says we want to know the truth of mental health. Well, that's an inaccurate statement, because if you want to know the truth of mental health, it was just told to you. We need to be in harmony with our true nature, which understands how nature reflects to us our true nature. Yeah? The nature, when I say true nature, natural law. Nature reflects to you the operation of natural law. And natural law is the foundation the soul uses to interpret life. Yeah? So if you're not in tune with natural law, as my brother correctly said, there's going to be an imbalancement. And that imbalancement is going to affect spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. You see? So the roots behind mental illness is the lack of awareness of our true self. So we can align ourselves. Our true self is in alignment with natural law. But when you're being conditioned to have a superficial psychological emotional identity that you then will even die to defend. This is how deep this stuff is. People will just die to defend a name. I mean, when I say a name, a word that is not even the original originally associated with you in the context of what you would have that mean in a wholesome way for you. You know what I mean? But people will die. They will kill. They will fight to the bitter end to defend this illusion. You see? So the time we're in here now, energies are getting more intense. It's bringing up to the surface the need to expand your awareness beyond the egoic conditioning of a society that's been running for, I don't know what you say it's been running.
Well, the disorder you mean has been running.
Yeah, the disorder. Yeah, we're chatting about this. We're chatting about this Western modern society. We are dealing with disorder because the Western patriarchal society is about separating spirit from matter. You know, things like that. Separation, judgment, and vengeance. Yeah. These type of things. Yeah. Chosen people, who's not chosen. You see, these type of beliefs things even seep into the nature people are now believing is the nature of the higher power some folk call God. Religious people would still call God. But then the nature of this God is man-made. You know, there's this thing where we talk about being made and created in the source's image that many religious folk would say God, okay? And then there is God made in man's image, you see? Now, if you look at the word image, see, this is the key thing, you know, because people say, if we're created in God's image, what is that? And we have all different images. But it's when you're dealing with image, source is image. When you look at the word image, you know, you got to understand you're dealing with composite words and how words are put together like jigsaw puzzles, yo. That's why they can be taken apart, rearranged, and, you know, you get the word heart in the same word earth. You know what I'm saying? Right? You got ear. You know what I'm saying? Found within the word heart and earth. So, you know, words are, letters are symbols, and you put them together to create certain words. You see what I mean? That you cause spells with, hence why you spell. You have to spell a word, and you have to know the letter. You know what I'm saying? The letter, which is a symbol. So it's how these symbols are arranged. And, you know, you're dealing with energies and frequencies. This is big, deep science, okay? But this is what is being utilized. And so when you're looking at the Western society, it's been based upon separation and the conditioning of how your role, the station you're supposed to remain in. Don't come out of your lane. Like even you get disqualified. You get the judge. The judge come upon you, and now you're disqualified from the race because you've come out of your lane. And you have this society that wants to keep everything in this compartmentalization and not seeing the interconnection between, because it's not based on natural law. That's basically what it is. It's man-made law. So when you're looking at the word image, you're going to see imagination. All right? And you either are the imagination of source, where you now become the concept conceived in consciousness, and now this is how you take on this form, okay, which is known as the so-called quote-unquote humanoid, and then you got in Greek the word anthropos, as in anthropomorphic. Anthropos in Greek is supposed to break down to mean human being. So, but yet you got the word human coming from the word humus, which means dirt and soil. Yeah, we could go into these words. This is how they trick you and confuse you. However, when you're dealing with the image, when you're dealing with consciousness, you see, when it goes in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You see, you're dealing with a metaphysical statement that is written in a way to preserve its truth and to hide it from the initiated, which is what most of these religious books really are. But if you don't understand how that it's a metaphysical book, it's a drama, psychological drama of the story of the soul. All of them are. Okay? If you don't understand that, you take it literally. You think it's a history book. And then you fight for on and on and on to try to find yourself in the Bible again for an identity. Now, I'm not saying some of the things in historical is not being in the book that is being used as an allegory to assist in the metaphysical interpretation of it. But you have to understand that, I think I'm going off on these different things as I'm getting inspired, right? Because even though, a camel, it's easier for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter heaven, Well, there was a small little gap entrance entering into Jerusalem, and Jerusalem means city of peace, that a camel could only enter through, because if you were laden, if you was on the camel, laden with all your, all of the stuff you have acquired, okay, right, through your trade and all of that business, you wouldn't be able to enter through that small gap, okay, this little small gateway. So it was a thing where you'd have to dismount the camel, take off all your heavy load and all the stuff you loaded the camel with, and then the camel could walk through that small, narrow gap, right? But so that was a fact. There is a certain doorway like that. But that you can say that's a historical fact. But it was only used as an allegory to explain a metaphysical principle. That the man or the one sitting on the camel, heavy laden with all your bags and all your all your stuff, these are symbolic of the one who holds on to material opinions. You're caught up with your material attachments, your material values that you use to define you and give yourself a sense of security from, like, money used to give you a sense of security. Whatever material attachments you have to give yourself a sense of belonging. All of those stuff is what you cannot you can't enter into heaven, okay, with those material attachments weighing you down. So that's why it was used that, it's easier for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. So it's not to say, being rich, if your richness is based upon the material attachments of the things you have, then you'll be weighed down. You see what I mean? You are naturally rich, as in, your soul is gold, okay? But the value that we transfer to anything external to us, remember, it comes from within ourselves. It's not the thing itself that has the value. It's the value you're putting on it based on how the feeling you feel towards, a particular thing. Yeah? So that's why you call the term esteem, estimate, esteem. How do you feel about something indicates how you would assign value. So what's happened? We've transferred this sense of value within ourselves onto a symbol of value, and then now we believe that the symbol is what the thing is. It's like people would have a belief in something and believe that the thing is what got the power, but the thing itself doesn't have no power. It's your belief in the thing that has the power. You see the subtle stuff. Many people don't understand that we are transferring our energy away from ourselves and empowering things that are impermanent. So the one who's laid and weighed down, burdened down with all these material attachments, they're burdened down because as long as they're attached to these things, they won't be able to rise up to a reality beyond this material plane. They're just trapped in human consciousness. The material, that's only it's a finite world, limitation. You believe, you even have people rarely use this term, but we're only human beings, and don't see how that limits the way they think. And the thing is, they say we're only human beings. I would like to ask, well, who called you that? Is that something you defined yourself as? No, it was something that you were conditioned to define yourself as. And how you get conditioned is through repetition. And you can get conditioned without someone having to tell you something. You just have to be in the energy field that holds that type of thought system, that type of energy. And you will absorb that subconsciously, unconsciously, because the subconscious is impressed upon through feel. It's not through this logical deductive thinking and reasoning. You know what I'm saying? That's the conscious mind. But then, so what I'm saying here is that, what's taking place with these transits is that the structure, which is the foundation of how a society, any society and cultural society has been constructed. These structures are being torn down. They're being destroyed. And what you're naturally going to have is the resistance to that, because, when you're used to something and this is what you're calling life, and this is what you feel that believe your sense of identity or your sense of security, your safety, is coming from, then seeing this thing go under so much change, and people are fighting, revolting in different around the world to the government system, that's there to govern your mind, government us. And these are reflections of the purge, the purification. You see, the release from discordant beliefs, unnatural laws, unnatural, a foundation that a system is being constructed upon unnatural law. It's not dealing with natural law. It's dealing with man-made stuff, man and woman-made ideas and ideologies, which then gets passed on as, traditions or culture, you know what I'm saying? And we will create, then this reaction, the magnetic emotional bonding rejection impulse coming from the ego drive, you see, of the personality. We react to life from that. So, people will defend certain beliefs, cherished beliefs, and don't realize that's all it is. It's a belief. And it's not like that's the only belief that exists. It's like, salmon isn't the only fish that exists within the ocean. You got a myriad and, how many, hundreds and thousands of millions of species of fishes or plant life or marine life, and even in the ocean. So you don't just have one caliber of a species of something dwelling in the ocean. So you don't just have one existing belief that is the only thing, this is it, existing within the ocean of consciousness. You've got a diversity of stuff. And without the diversity, you wouldn't be able to have free will to be able to make choices. And to make choices, you have to expand your awareness to realize you beyond the constraints, of the fear-based ideas that this society has just brought, you've been brought up with. You're going to have to come out of those limited, constricted points of views. in order to become aware that there are more expansive points of views that do exist. You know, like there's all different shapes and sizes of fishes, marine life that exists within the ocean, you know? And the more you expand your awareness, the more you are aware that you have choices. Whereas some folk believe they don't have any choices. They're fated and doomed to live a certain way, because that's the belief that has become cemented in their consciousness. They've crystallized that. And, you know, you have this term, you know, as a man thinketh, so is he, or, you know, as a man think, you know, or self-fulfilling prophecies. You heard that term. People would talk about, you know, self-fulfilling prophecies. Self-fulfilling prophecy is basically what you've been holding in your consciousness to be is so, even if it's not, but you feel it's so to you. This is a decision you're trusting in. Like there's no other decisions that can be made. And therefore you will end up experiencing the effects, the manifestation of that which you've, you know, limited yourself to operate or function with it. You know, this idea, okay? And most of these ideas are fear-based ideas. So within this transits, with there are folks, I'm going into this because there's change. Change is inevitable. Change is what's taking place. And this change takes place from within inside ourselves. But usually we're reacting to what we see on the outside. It dictates how you feel. It dictates how you think. It triggers up something that's already in you that you have not worked out. And you project that story onto the situation. And that situation now is being conditioned by your meaning, your limited meaning you're assigning to it. Now you're experiencing this situation or the effects in this way, you know, in this limited way. But we're going to be pushed to expand our awareness. Because when you're now dealing with the universal tide coming in here, these transits with this Pluto retrograde, Pluto represents death to a lot of people, okay? It represents the underworld. It represents the deep, the darkness, the occult, the hidden, you know, the abyss. And these are just terms that can seem scary, but it's really the depth of your soul. Yeah, Pluto represents the soul impulses, the core inner impulses from the soul level of you. And it's the transmutive power of the soul. And then you got Saturn, which I've already said constitutes the structure in your consciousness that is being arranged by your belief system, which is what Sagittarius symbolizes. Sagittarius symbolizes your belief system. So what you got going on now with Jupiter retrograding through Sagittarius is that people, you got, you know, even the other, you know, people gonna be telling you how they're, you know, you got, well, Jesus is the only truth. Jesus is the only truth. Their version of how they look at it. Or if you're Muslim, or if you're Judaism, or whatever, you know, your beliefs. You got people feeling their beliefs are being challenged, and you see them sticking in their heels more and not even questioning the fact that, yeah, but these are beliefs given to you. You don't even know how, if it's true. You know, it's beliefs, dude. You know what I'm saying? Now, people can believe what they want. They can have their points of view. But the thing is that you're not immune from the consequences of what you believe will manifest for you. You see what I'm saying? Or what your point of view may limit or expand you, enable you to do beyond what another limiting point of view somebody may, more limiting point of view somebody else may be holding on to. So I'm saying these things are experienced in your life. But the thing is, we're not seeing that it's coming from us. And all of us are projecting some shit to a different degree, you know, of how much you're aware, how much your consciousness is expanding for you to own your own, yeah, projections, till you don't project no more. You're seeing things clearly because you're owning yourself. You see what I mean? But so we got these planets retrograding, and for a lot of people, many people have been, we use the term dying. And from the ego personality perspective, that seems like the end. And what it's bringing up for a lot of folk is reflection on their own mortality, or the loss of whom they emotionally psychologically attached to, you know? And from the human level, this can bring up a lot of fear. This can bring up a lot of your own stuff coming up that you need to realize is coming up for you to examine, because these limited beliefs are gonna have to make way for a more expanded view. Jammers, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, you just sparked me off there, because as I said, every word has a psychological, physical origin that's dictated by the person's environment, and the environment also is the historical environment, the essence of where they've originated from. So the word dye, if you really check what the word dye means, it means to have color. You know, so if a species of animal doesn't have any color, you know, it obtaining that color in any shape or form, it's the elimination of that species. So if you really check what the word dye means, it means to acquire color. You know, so the physiological and psychic mentality of a person that will vibrate that word into existence shows that their species will die with our continual birth and generation. You know, so that's what I like to say. And also what you said, you know, what is key is basically in relation to or the natural order of nature. Then the original nature, if your etymology means true word. So if word affects consciousness, then the words were originally put in existence to keep your mind in relation to order, into the order of nature. And this new use of words now is causing a imbalance, because it can't be verified by the natural order of nature. Beliefs cannot be verified by facts or evidence. Or so the key element as well, especially with identity, is that we're assigning ourselves to a sameness when nature shows you that everything is different. But the funny thing is, in relation to this mental disorder we have, if we see anybody different to us, we attack it.
There you go. You see that? If you're not conforming to some so-called societal norms, you know, and we end up becoming like police wardens. No, not police, prison wardens. Yeah, you're being a prison warden for one another if you start to think beyond the parameters of what someone wants to confine you in, because they're confined in that. So you now gonna think differently. You're gonna behave differently. And also you're mad, easily justified as crazy or mad.
And also you're a prison warder as well, because if it doesn't look like you, you know, you're gonna put it in a box, which is also what the word norm means as well. To normalize something, to put it into a box, to put it to a rule. You know.
There you go.
And I would prefer to say it's not a man and woman rule, it's a man-made, because men, if women were making some rules, they would be more in accordance with nature.
Well, I hear that, but I wouldn't really fully agree with that, because even when you had the matriarchal, and it's just, you know, and this doesn't mean that me not agreeing with what you're saying, I don't value what, you know, for any listeners out there, you know, value what my brother's saying, you know, because, you know, I do. At the same time, we have to develop our own unique way of ourselves. You know, we have to think. We got to use our own, work with our own consciousness. Otherwise, it'd be easy to become a herd mentalist. You know, following the ass in front of you, consensus thinker. You know what I mean? Trying to fit in with everybody else to feel normal. That's what I'm saying.
Or the herd mentality, you're going on what you heard.
Only what you heard, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And I did a show on this. You know, you can go and check it out on YouTube. On the recent shows I've done about, you know, herd mentality, and you got this herd-like thinking, and another word for it, a way of looking at it, is peer group pressure. You know what I mean? You and then here's this versions of you. Others may have a version of how they see you and how they expect you to be. And the thing is that you got many people living out the versions others have of them, rather than deciding who they are themselves and being true to that. What do you say on that part?
So could you just rerun that?
You have many of us, you know, many people, they're living out the version of someone else. Yeah? someone else has of them. For example, you got our parents. Our parents have a certain view about yourself. You know what I mean? And then you have so-called acquaintances and friends who have a view about you. When you see people change, go through changes, you have certain people who would say they know of you, would say, ooh, I don't like how him change. You know, they prefer the person or the version they saw you as before you changed. And now they're not comfortable with maybe the change, of that version that you're making that could be more in line for you or with you, but they who prefer the version they have of you outside of you, they want you to conform to that. So what I'm saying is that you got many people living and trying to be the version of not who they decide they are to be, but the version others have decided they are to be. And they live that out because they seem to take that in and trust in that more than the choices they're making for their own self. You see what I mean? And some of the choices you will make for your own self is going to go against, be a contrary to the version others will have of you. You see what I mean? And then you end up getting the all of that judgment and criticism that could make you threaten you. You know, you feel, oh gosh, you know, and you conform back. Yeah, because you don't want the argument. You don't, you know, because it's going to take strength for you to move on your own, to move and step away from various institutionalized or, you know, a group agreed upon ideas. And you're going to be looked upon as not one of them. You're not one of we. You understand? Because it's like you ain't conforming to the version that the belief you're to conform to requires of you. So then you're gonna have people tell you how them see you and who you're supposed to be for them. But think about it. How are you supposed to be living the version of somebody else when you're supposed to know and decide for you who you are to be?
Well, I think what it is that decision, through lack of insights, been taken away from us at birth. Because as you quite rightly saying, we've been trained like a dog, you know, to respond to names. You know, so we're responding to these names, you know, of your star sign, of your characteristics, you know, of a quality that somebody else has given you, rather than and a belief. Then it's also by the belief that somebody has that they've given you a name. You're smart, or you're idiot, or you're stupid, or you're Aries, oh you're introvert, or you're extrovert. So we've been remember, train means to reign over you. So basically, you know, this originally it was you give something a name, and once you, just like Pavarotti's dog, once they respond to that, the name that you've acquired, as you say, the spelling, you have a hold over them. And spell means a period of time. So if you can construct a sound wave that someone responds to, you know, and then put a value system on it, then you've created a behavior in that person to what you valued. And funny enough, if you look at the word name, you know, if you look at it, well, two things. A dog responds to every name that the master says. Sit rover, fetch rover, you know, and if it doesn't respond to that sound, it gets beaten. A cat doesn't respond to the name that is given, and even in captivity is free. Funny enough, look at the word name, and you'll see who you really are. Hidden in the word name. If you rearrange the letters of the word name, you'll see the word A-E-E-M, amen. And the reality, once again, nature is the original order. So this is what we've been taking away, the spirit, our inner spirit, and being in tune or responding to how we feel to respond to, which is a free spirit, which nature has given us, you know. So this is the key element, is that we have been trained like a dog to respond to somebody else's sound created by the value that they believe should be in place.
It's interesting you use the term dog, because they're showing you everything that you know they call quote unquote humans chase after, you know, try to aspire towards, or you know, or think, you know, dress up in our clothes, go to fancy restaurants, sit down and eat such and such food, ski upon, you know, on skis, go upon boats, all these different things. You see that they always use a dog. You'll dress up a dog, They'll show you how the dog can ski. They'll show you how the dog can, they do things that make the dog try to replicate what they, quote unquote, humans do. So they're basically telling you, even a dog can do what us you've been trained to do. You see what I'm saying? And the funny thing is that in the Western thing, this thing about the dog, no disrespect to the animal. Well, the original dog is a wolf, y'all. What you got as these crossbreedings of things today, I'm not even sure if we, can really even say that a lot of these, what we call dogs are we're not dealing with natural genetic mutation here. We're dealing with forced genetic combinations that would not naturally happen in nature. So this is how you can get these man-made, even man-made dogs, you know what I'm saying? Man-made. And it's interesting though, because the dog is a pack animal. It needs a leader. It needs to follow that leader. Hence why you'd have some various animals will fight for that position. Who's the strongest? That so-called alpha, right, is the one that the pack will follow. Okay, so that's why the nature of the dog is the same way. Because even if you get a dog and it still needs the master to tell it what to do, guide it, direct it. And if the dog doesn't see you as respectable enough, as the alpha enough, then it will run right around you. You see what I mean? Because it's only going to respond to that which is dominant. Yeah, it can say, boy, okay, I'm going to get my ass smashed up here if I don't obey. And that's what the dog respects. Okay? But you mentioned the cat. Whether in captivity or non-captivity, you notice that a cat remains the same. Unless it's been very bred a certain way and trained, because you got a lot of this same thing they're doing with cats, and so much stuff with food, with everybody, everything. Yeah, your crossbreeding, your man-made and managing, engineering. It's not divine engineering. It's man-made engineering here, So some of these cats' nature can, be contrary. But really, you see the difference between a cat and a dog. A cat is its own master. It's not going to be like a dog. You see what I mean? It's not going to be like a dog. I'm not saying that you can't train cats. But, by nature, cat are more independent. Whereas a dog needs to follow a leader. You understand? So, and then you have a society that look, we even have in this vernacular, the vernacular we use. Yo, dog, the words that come up again. Yo, dog, yo, bitch. And bitch is a female dog. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like you then become, affectionate towards this, it's like endearing terminologies towards this idea of, you're identifying with these terms, dog, bitch, and this and that. But remember, all of these creatures need a leader. Whereas a cat, the feline, the symbology, understanding that the language of the soul is different to the language of the conscious mind. The conscious mind doesn't understand the language of the unconscious, okay? Which is just a part of you that you're not consciously aware of, okay? That's why they call it the unconscious or the collective unconscious. And that language has always been symbols, okay? Symbols, images, okay? Sigils, okay? And you're
so what does sigil mean?
Sigil is what it means. You're still dealing with
what it is.
Is an image. It's a drawing like right. Sigils is something that you would see on runes, or sigils will be on various grammatia type of spirits and entities. They have a certain sigil to it,
right?
Or a sigil, and people would use that to focus on, and because look, how the subconscious, or how you condition the subconscious, is through repetition, trauma, and symbols. And that's the reason why a lot of things that we hold on to are so ingrained in the consciousness and being passed on from generation. But the subconscious gets deconditioned and programmed through what you want to consciously put in it through the same process. Repetition, sigils, and emotions. You see what I mean? You see, the feel And the repetition of something that brings up that feeling, and a symbol that symbolizes that feeling, is how the subconscious listens. This is how it that's its language. It doesn't care about words you use in that sense. Like you're saying, and you're trying to create this, this petition to God, and you're using all these words. You can use the words, but if the feelings are not aligned up to those words, then the universe is only hearing the feeling, because it's frequency. That's the language. You see what I mean? So the subconscious is impressed upon by whatever you feel is true to you. That's because the subconscious doesn't reason. But I'd have to say here that the subconscious, we hear a lot about it. Now, like, this is the source of your everything. When it's still, the subconscious is still only an aspect of you. You see, your subconscious is like a storehouse, for memory. And your soul is what has lived life after life after life. So your soul carries memories, which then become stored in what you call the unconscious aspect of you, or what is the same as subconscious, and sub means deep. So you're talking about a deeper awareness in you, that unless you're turning your awareness inward, you're not going to be consciously aware of it, but you will be unconsciously influenced, guided and directed, not even guided, directed and influenced by what is held in the subconscious. You understand? So how I'm doing the show today is just saying that, look, man, a lot is coming up. And with these retrogrades, Pluto moving in retrograde till October, and you got your Saturn that's turned retrograde the other day, a few days ago, and then you got your Jupiter that's been in there for a month now, retrograding, and what these symbolize within you. These are energies. These are energy centers within you. Everything in nature is a symbolic reflection of archetypes that exist within your consciousness. It's kind of, when because you're growing up in a society that's based upon outside, and you're dictated by outside. What happens outside dictates how you feel. This is how it's been set up. So you've transferred your power away from within you to objects externally to you. Yeah. And then you believe that the thing has the power when the thing itself don't have no power. It's your belief in the thing. It's the energy you're investing in the thing that has the power. You see what I'm saying? So when we're dealing with, so when we're dealing with these transits right here, you got a lot of people passing away. People just dropping. Boop, 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 boop. I went to a drum call the other day for a beloved elder, drummer who, listen, he's taught so many people. He's worked with so many folk. Many people over the years, the decades, have, passed. Their paths have crossed. Baba Ade Wallace, those of you who were at the drum call with me on last Tuesday, he's passed. You got so much other people's, and he's a father, he's got his daughter, he's got his children who are feeling that miss, and many of us who feel him. And then you got your own people, you got your own parents, you got your own relatives, and people are experiencing them passing. Okay? Holy per deaths. But when we were saying about the word die, and it means color, but also die is what you use for the what you call like a dice that you use for the game, but it's not square, it's kind of pyramid, like two pyramids,
right? Mm-hmm.
So you got that as a die. So die also comes from the word to divide, diversion, division. Okay, so it's a separation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you get the term die within the death. But even the word death comes from the word dath on the Kabbalistic tree. Okay? Because many of us don't go into the occult because we've been taught that is evil. That's hidden. That's you don't do, you know what I mean? When the occult means hidden knowledge. Okay? And if I got my left hand in my pocket and you can't see my left hand and my right hand is visible to you, you could say that my left hand is occult because it's hidden. So then, then you get terminologies added to a word for you to associate something scary or something negative with it, so that you assign a negative meaning to a word that didn't have a negative meaning in the first place. It just meant what it meant. hidden. You see what I'm saying? So you've got doth, which comes from, which is where you get death from, and doth is where you got to pass into the abyss to enter the knowledge of yourself, of your soul. You see, because you're just dealing with earthly, material world, not knowing the truth of existence. So we stay trapped within what they call the fetters of the soul, which is the magnetic emotional bonding and rejecting reaction to life. Grab or push and pull away, push away or grab towards you. You see what I mean? And it's based upon this personal self preservation. So you see that you would just to grab after something for your personal self-preservation, and you have groups of people thinking the same way, then they're going to justify harming many other people just to get what they need to preserve themselves. That's the ego drive, and this is the world you're living in. But the soul, the true nature of you, is trapped within, well, it's not even trapped to say, but what you call the fetters of the soul is the magnetic emotional bonding and rejecting impulses in the personality. And it's driven by fear. And it's driven by the need to preserve itself. Yeah? So the ego's just trying to protect you, but it doesn't know any other way to do it. It doesn't have no other way to live. And you have the majority of people living through the ego personality. And that's the fear-based shit. So stuff's going to come up more now, because as you're seeing, there's transformation in the economic system. There's transformation or changes going on in different government sectors around the world. Am I incorrect with that? Yeah? My brother, you're aware of these things there. You know what I mean? The changes going on in the outer structure. Yeah? In various countries where people are just getting, protesting against their government. Okay? And you got this confusion over here about Brexit, and everybody else is getting caught up in a historical thing that, Britain depends upon. It depends upon something. Well, it used to be the one that called the shots, but it's not the one that calls the shots so much now. So their voice don't have such an influence in the EU thing, and they're thinking that they can, you see what I mean? History is falling apart. The foundation that all of this society has been structured upon is falling apart. And how to rectify this? What you're seeing is that if you want what is new to come, the old has to be gone. The old has to be destroyed first. And I use that word, destroyed, because it actually just means to change in form and composition. So you need the change in form and composition of what is present at this moment and what's been going on for the last 2,000 years to be deconstructed and no longer supported in our consciousness, because we bought into certain beliefs and ideas, limited beliefs and ideas about reality in ourselves. These have to come under a transmutation in order for there to be the change, and what you're going to build, the foundation you're going to build anew upon, has to be totally nothing to do with this now. You can't build on the past corruption and expect new construction to be different. You have to change it completely, and we support it through the way we think, the structure in our consciousness that's been influenced by this unnatural, right? Against natural law, anti-natural law way of being. It's just man-made opinions and man-made beliefs. You see what I mean? And why I said I don't fully agree, I would say women as well, right? Because we think that matriarchal, everything was wonderful, but it was an imbalance in the matriarchal system as well. Okay? Because you can't just stay within yourself, right? And not realize that the inspiration you get, you're here to express the nature of your true self, the divine nature, not this human thing, the divine intelligence, the life force within you. And there's what you call progression, progress. Look, people used to travel 5 days on a horse or a mule, donkey, to send a letter, to deliver a letter, okay, to somewhere in a different region of the country. You would have to wait for 6 months for your letter. That's going to be on a ship, sailing across from the country you're in to the other country whom you're writing the letter to. Yeah? 6 months. Okay? And we think that going back to nature, right, is like we must go back to some kind of you see, they even romanticize this idea of nature as well, because nature is pretty harsh, and your nature is only something for you to help you realize your true nature, for you to direct it, yeah, to work in harmony with it, but directing it. So when you're dealing with the matriarchal, which was more inward, you also have certain mysteries that weren't being revealed. They were being used to manipulate men, keeping them in the dark to certain their role in the creative process. You know, just like you'd have certain truths hidden in a vault, huh? And only those who have access to that vault is privy to that information. But then you use that information to manipulate those who are not privy to it, similar to what you got today. Okay, and funny enough, patriarchal is really about the externalization. We get caught up in the human ego of the male ego. And even when we talk about the rise of the feminine, we can get mistaken, and it gets deflected into the female egoic psyche, you know, the female psyche. And you're not dealing with men and women in that respect when you're talking about patriarchal and matriarchal, yeah, or masculine and feminine. What you're really dealing with is you're dealing with the twin force. You're dealing with the masculine and feminine force within ourselves that needs to be integrated, unified, no longer under the false belief that they're separate, you know, and in contamination with one another. You know, you're dealing with the integration. Even when the word integrity is more of a realization than a moral code of certain behavior, because that's something else. Integrity comes from the word integration, which means you're an integrated whole being. So when you're saying I have integrity, you're saying you have come to the realization that you are an integral whole being. So you being an integral whole being means that you're now in alignment with a more expanded point of view, where you realize you contain the whole within you, the whole entire universe. There's no separation between you and source of all that is. But when you're not in integrity, you're in separation. That's because you're in judgment and criticism, giving unequal measures and weights to things, people, places, and things. You're judging yourself in how you compare yourself to somebody else as being better or lesser than you, you know, or you're lesser and they're greater. You see what I mean? They're better, they're worse, or you're worse and they're better. All of these things create separation. And through the separation, you give birth, you breed fear. Because as long as you're ignorant to what you're actually doing, what takes place through separation, then you end up becoming separated from yourself. You can't see that you are an integral whole being. Now, here's the thing. The mechanism for integral wholeness is love, unconditional love. Look how we would judge yourself because you made a mistake. Yeah? You don't need no God on up high to come down and punish you. The way people get on to their own selves because they made a mistake or they didn't kind of meet the mark. And rather than using this to improve upon something they know they will be able to do, they judge themselves. They don't love themselves. You see what I'm saying? We have conditional love to ourselves, not unconditional. We put conditions, whether you're worthy of something or whether you're not worthy of something, based upon the conditions you put on yourself or the conditions you put on somebody else. Yeah? You know, you as a child, you begin to grow up with those kind of conditionings, you know? This thing creates separation and division in yourself, and you feel that you're separated from that which you think is the source outside of you. Listen, it creates so much dynamics of psychological, emotional trauma that these things are going to come up, and when they emerge, we project them on one another rather than realizing, no, the source of them is inside. Not saying that others are not projecting their magnetic stuff onto you, but look, man, this is becoming a minefield. This time and this day and time that has been talked about, this is what we're in. You know, people are going to, if you have to come out of what is happening now is that astrologically what you're getting is these transits are bringing all of this to the fore. You know, a lot of people are passing away. This symbolizes letting go. This is letting go of the force attachments you've used to build up your sense of security and identity upon. That which is not coming from and generated from within inside yourself is then gonna come to a point where those things are gonna change in your life, okay? You know, and is gonna bring up the stuff that you have there you've been neglecting to look upon. When we use the word death, and I said die is division, that's a separation. That's the soul, the consciousness has gone back into non-physical reality. And what has been left behind is the vehicle of the personality that will never be again. This personality, this vehicle of the consciousness, the soul expressing itself through. When you pass on, it's like you're waking up in reverse. Just like you're having a physical, you go to sleep and you have this dream and everything's taking place within, this dream, and then you wake up and you think, oh wow, this all was taking place within me because it's all receded back into you because you was dreaming this, right? Well, this is like a physical dream where our true self is dreaming us, dreaming you being man, woman, dreaming you having a particular experience. You're dreaming it. From the spiritual side of you, this is a dream, a physical dream. And when you pass on, when it's time for you when you make the decision to transcend, you're now waking up to your grander self. When you move into the non-physical reality and leave as I said, the vehicle of the personality, okay? Your vehicle. You leave it behind. You see what I mean? So you're waking up. You're not really dying, but that's an idea coming from the finite beliefs of the material mind, the human mind. You think you're a human. You're this personality. You see? There's something I just want to read something to kind of maybe touch some words to kind of make more clearer what I'm saying. And then I want to bring Jammers more into this, because I'm just flowing here, and I bucked him up on the way here, so I didn't even plan that we were gonna sit here and have a reasoning, contribution to the discourse I'm dealing with here this evening. But I'm gonna read something here. It's called The True Nature of Existence. The truth of being is this: you who believe only in the material world live entirely in the earthly finite world. You live within a dimension of the manifestation of your beliefs. Those whose spiritual perceptions and lives have been raised in frequency of vibration to merge with the spiritual frequencies of vibration of the spiritual dimension can perceive that they live in two dimensions. They are fully aware of this truth, and they live according to this truth and evolve into ever higher frequencies of being. They are no longer bounded by human belief, but live within the realization that they live within infinity, in which are no limitations. The higher their vibrational frequencies of consciousness, the more aware they are that they live within infinity and that only they themselves set the limits on what they can aspire to. Those whose perceptions have been heightened in this way while still in their bodies have seen that there is only one dimension of actual individual being, and this dimension is divine consciousness activity. They may also come to fully realize there is the further dimension of universal consciousness, in which the universal resides in perfect equilibrium and may be penetrated by none, because within this dimension any individuality would be immediately drawn into the unity of being. When a soul reaches in understanding and realization the topmost levels of the frequencies of vibrations of consciousness, Christ consciousness, the soul can look down and review the levels of vibrations ascending and descending to those of humanity on earth, and know with love and compassion humanity is trapped in the lower vibrations of divine consciousness hidden within the ego drive. Wholly unaware of the truth of being, the soul's true identity, and the earthly truth of the ego. Neither does it have the slightest awareness of the immense purpose behind its existence and the eventual mission it must embark upon. The task of the newborn soul is to experience, through means of its sheath of the psyche, all that these lower frequencies have to offer, and grow as a result of the mental emotional events and experiences arising out of their thoughts and feelings. The soul must learn through trial and error the state of consciousness which makes it immensely happy or burdened with grief and sorrow, which initiates various physical limitations. The purpose of life on earth is not to discover a means to experience undeviating joy and bliss, although this is what each soul longs for. Such bliss and joy would hinder the soul's progress into the higher spiritual vibrations of consciousness. Eventually, after many lifetimes of highs and lows, of comfort and sorrow, the psyche will wake up to the truth of its being and realize that it has within itself the potential to draw on divine consciousness for insight, understanding, and knowledge, to raise its spiritual consciousness vibrations to those of health, well-being, protection, inner growth, spiritual nutrition, and to radiate to others the nature of divine consciousness itself. As I have said before, consciousness is life, and life is consciousness. Where there is life, there is consciousness. Where there is consciousness, there is life. Everything in existence is defined by vibrational frequencies of consciousness. Light, sound, color, all physical phenomena, both living and inanimate. If you can change the frequencies of vibrations of any single thing, you change the appearance of that thing, be it sound, color, gas, liquid, physical organs. When physical organs present an appearance of ill health, it is because the normal frequencies of vibrations of that physical organ have been reduced and the life within the organ has been depleted. Science represents the universe as being matter possessing consciousness. But the truth is, the universe is consciousness which has taken on the appearance of matter as a result of a descent into lower frequencies of vibrations of consciousness. This is the true reality of existence, nothing else. Your existence is all a matter of frequencies of vibrations. The higher the spiritual perception and the adherence to spiritual thought, the more swift are the personal vibrational frequencies in the body. The vitality is raised and the illness eventually disappears. The scientific fraternity believes you live entirely within the human dimension, comprising the solar system and the galaxies of the stars. Science believes the human intellect is the highest point of intelligent reference at any time, having evolved in response to changing environment and climatic conditions, and is purely the product of brain activity. According to science, your emotions are wholly real and valid, and what you think and feel is beyond all dispute. These constitutes the only reality of existence. Normalcy is computed according to the average thoughts, actions, and responses to the environment. This is perceived as the human reality. Any talents which transcend the average output of average minds is reckoned as being genius, arising from unusual mental powers. The below average output is said to be due to retardation due to some physical cause, genetics, birth trauma, etc. Science believes the physical dimension is the beginning and the end of existence. Science is so set against any possibility of self-delusionary beliefs that it will accept as being real any phenomenon provided it can be computed, estimated, and proved by instruments. If you think about this carefully, you will come to realize that what science holds fast to as facts is, in reality, only beliefs created by drawing conclusions through the exercise of their five senses. So as it with every other facet of your existence. In your earthly dimension, facts take place second by second, but the moment they have happened, they become memory beliefs, and memories are not always accurate. Whatever feelings and thoughts you have about the past are not facts, but points of view. Beliefs are, therefore, not facts, nor the reality behind them. This applies to every facet of your existence. The truth is, you live in a worldly dimension composed entirely of your beliefs, arising from your responses to what happened 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 years ago. At one time, people believed the world was flat. Therefore, for them, those people who believed that, they lived in a flat world and were afraid to sail the seas too far in one direction, because they were in danger of falling off the edge of the world. For a people, A mere 400 years ago, their world was flat. Today, with knowledge, your world is accessible in every direction. People in the past and also in the present time directed their lives according to old wives' tales, the powers of the ancestors and other legends. They believed in them so implicitly. The limitations imposed by these beliefs restricted people's actions and activities. Dancing was believed to be sinful and wicked by certain Christian sects, for instance. Therefore, many people who would have derived great happiness and release from stress when dancing were wrongfully denied this pleasure. Religion comes under the same heading. Beliefs are the very substance of religion. They are founded on age-old happenings, which are nothing but beliefs. The beliefs may have been relevant to the general mindset of those times, but they have long since become irrelevant in a constantly changing world. That they are strictly adhered to and become the focus of worship, festivities, celebrations, mourning, and more destructively, they become the reason for men killing one another and causing horrific misery to women and children. Certain religions claim that God is everywhere and in all things, but also affirm dogmatically that no one knows the mind of God or the reasons why people kill one another. It may be in God's plan, they say. With mindsets composed of a conglomeration of logical or illogical beliefs, where can mankind at this present time find any certainty of beauty, joy, health, well-being, and love? Religious ideas presents a God whose will can bring life and healing or death and destruction. In such beliefs there is no certainty of anything other than uncertainty. Which such a belief, any sickness or abnormality can be excused as being God's will. It is your beliefs which control all your expectations of what life may hand out in the future. So I'll pause on that. So my brother, would you like to say anything on this?
Well, it really is. The book says it all. You know, there's nothing really more to add to that. But that is the reality of it. That the values and limits, you know, the values and what you believe to be true is true. You know, this is the construct of fantasy. You know, but it's natural order. There's natural order that sets limits to whatever you believe. You know, and away from that as well. There's no limits in relation to what you can do away from any belief system that's in place. You know, you can move, you can act away from that belief system, you know, because nature will allow you to do anything that you want to do within the limits of nature, you know. So the real problem is that the whole dimension that we're in is anti-natural. It's all based on belief. Belief means you're moving away from the natural order or the natural configuration of how things are done, and it is constructed to celebrate this fantasy land, you know, that somebody else has created for us to perform the roles in. Mm-hmm. You know, this is as what you're saying is people are killing, murdering, and acting in a way that somebody else has told them to do. It's not something that we've been allowed to figure out for ourselves or to make our own pathway. You know, we're doing everything we've been bombarded with, all the TV, the media, you know, the social media, you know, the films, the musics, the visions, you know, everything has somebody else has put a value or a code of conduct on, and we've been, as you said, brainwashed and hypnotized, tricked and bamboozled to follow, just like the train Pavarotti's Pavlov's dog, to perform actions, and we are rewarded by how well we can perform the actions and the value that someone else has given us. If you look at the word reward is a place of care. You know, it's not being free. You know, so we're actually being put back into the box or being given a pat on the back or some material trophy for performing a role, just like this a circus performer performs a role.
Mm-hmm. You see, and what the difference in this time and day that we're in now is that you can come to the awareness that, look, it's only it's only ourselves that are keeping these things in place because we're the ones believing them. And when there's a lot of atrocities, or you get the drama being orchestrated in ways that make millions of people focus their attention towards a particular theme, then you're sending all of your energy. What they say, where attention goes, energy flows. And all of that energy of consciousness, creative energy of consciousness, being directed to a particular target, that energy is getting, drawn up by those who orchestrate this whole drama, okay? To create for themselves what they desire, when you could be using that energy to create what you desire. You see what I mean? And, it's like being employed for someone for how many years. They decide how much you are paid, how much your time and your energy is worth. And, you may find that as some sense of security. But, any day, they could turn around and tell you, look, you know what I mean? Things have changed. And then what you be thinking that's the source of your security, now, because that's outside of you and that could be taken away, you now going to fall into survival mode, isn't it? Because your yard going to get taken away, the food in your pit, the belly, the clothes upon your back, all of these things that keep you locked in this just necessity. You're trying to you're living in a way just to live, just to get your food, clothes, and shelter, and you want to sustain those things before you can feel relaxed enough to do any more deeper exploration of your awareness, So by keeping you, by when I say keeping you, because I'm on this thing where it's like, even when I use the word they do this and they keep you this, I don't like that vocabulary. Because again, I am saying that I don't have the power. It's something else that have more power over one. And the thing is that this is why what I was reading out from a section in a book that is called Christ Returns and Reveals His Truth. Now a lot of us think that, look, all of that conditioning, Christ, God, the European version of God, and Christ and Jesus, ain't that all conditioning too? But the thing is that it's a version. You see, when you have to understand how truth is preserved and protected, okay? That has to find its way of moving and existing throughout time. You see? And that truth that doesn't change is still existing throughout the changes in time. So there's ways that things are preserved in ways that when you understand, it's like having the right key for the right lock. It's not that door and what's behind it is not accessible for you, but you have to know how to access it. And if you don't have the correct key to open the correct lock, then you can't get access what is beyond the door. You see what I mean? So there has to be, if you get the right key, you know how to access, unlock the lock to step in and obtain that which is beyond the door. You see what I'm saying? So things are preserved and written in certain ways in order to preserve them and protect it from the uninitiated. Just like you got people who have certain information that if you was to drop that stuff to them, they will take that thing and create a whole heap of madness with it. Just like you got right now with all of the, you may aware, look, in this day and time now, man, you go on YouTube, not YouTube, you go on, you can go on YouTube, but on Facebook. There is this, you got all these different type of, groups and so forth. And there's one in particular, I won't mention the name, but there you can download all mannerisms of PDFs relating to the occult. How to put a spell on this person, how to work with this spirit, how to do this, how to do that. Now a lot of folk will be thinking, oh my gosh, if you're religious mindset, turn around and give it, Lord, this is, yeah. But the thing is, like, look, religion wasn't spread through peace and love. Yeah? Let's remember that. It was pure bloodshed. See? So, but the point I'm making is that you got people who will be privy to certain informations, or they want certain information. And now, a lot of things that you would not have been able to download and get for free is now available for free. Right? I know certain books that cost £400. You want that book? You have the money for that? You really want to get into that information? Then you're going to have to depart that money. You see what I mean? £200 to £400 for certain serious books that are, they're collector's items, so to speak. They're not in the mainstream of everybody's so-called reading catalog. But now you got these PDFs, versions of these things. And I read something where a woman, she was getting peed off with someone at work. And she was asking for advice on what spirit she could use to send to this person who's peeing her off, so she can do something to them. So you see, what happens here is the responsibility. It's not the thing itself. It's the people using things, and they're coming from a very irresponsible place. So even when I was growing up, you hear about Obia, or you hear about Santa Teresa and voodoo and so forth. And the thing is, it's like you get people. It's another way of saying it. Does knives kill people, or does guns kill people? Do they kill people? The truth of the matter is that they don't. It's people that kill people, because the gun can only be on a table or where it there left. It can't fire itself. Yeah, a knife can't stab up nobody by itself. It's whose hand it's in and their intention. So you got things that in themselves could have a positive purpose. Okay. But if you're dealing with people's mindsets who they want to have power because they're not, they're still dealing with this material egoic addressing life in this way. These people will use various things that could be used for good. And through their ignorance, they use it to set harm on others. And what happens, because they're not aware of the laws of existence, because they're ignorant to it, they're just living in the material dimension. They don't see that they've set into effect, they've set into motion the causation, the law of causation, cause and effect. What you've put out is eventually going to come back onto you. Yeah? So this is where you get people who do use these, now you got all this PDF, they can summon this spirit, they can summon this demon, or summon this thing. And the things they want to summon it for are over some serious stupidity. Like somebody at work is peeing you off, so you want to send them some demon for, plague them and mess them up. It's people. And then you turn around and say that, oh, it's God punishing. God is whom's punishing folk because they haven't done God's will. Look at these type of beliefs. You take no responsibility for your own self and what you're doing. And you turn around, and when things come back on folk, you say it's God's will. Now, the nature of the Creator is nothing like how man is made up. When you're dealing with an unconditional loving source, it's unconditionally loving to its own self. So therefore, we being aspects of this undifferentiated, all-powerful source and essence, consciousness, it is unconditionally loving to its own self. So therefore, being aspects of this very same source of absolute consciousness we've drawn our beings out from, therefore it only has unconditional love for all aspects of itself. Because if it didn't have unconditional love for all of itself, it wouldn't be all that is. It would be, if it was in judgment, it would be separated against itself. You see what I mean? It's going to have conditional love for some part of itself. It's going to withhold love from another part. It's going to give love to another part. And that could not be all that is. That would not be what you would subscribe to a source that is all present, all encompassing, and is unconditionally the loving essence of the energy that all life, all forms have been drawn out from, including ourselves. So what you got a lot of people believing in is the nature of a creator that is man-made, not in the nature of the source itself. You see? So you create separation through judgment and criticism. And then you believe, well, you got a judging God, an avenging God. So you use that, man uses that, and that's how I go, to justify his own behavior that he should be working on to purge himself from the magnetic emotional bonding and rejecting impulses in his consciousness that is operating from the ego drive, which will just grab after what it personally wants or push away violently, repel violently what it personally feels is a threat to its survival. And it's keeping people at the survival level where fear is the fuel that propels people's feet and mouth. You see what I mean? And their actions. And it's being compounded in this belief in a judging, vengeful, yeah, God that must be feared rather than revered. And, you know, the interpretation that justifies, well, who's going to punish the wicked? Who's going to punish wicked people and bad people? They, you know, God, you know, and it's like, no, you know, people do wicked shit. And that stuff comes back to them to have to deal with and address, for them to kind of eventually come out of the stupor of their ignorance, okay, to raise their consciousness into alignment with how, with the nature of divine life, their true nature, yeah, which is unconditionally loving. However, you're dealing with the law of existence, which operates on the activity of consciousness. So it's what you put out. What you sow is what you reap. You see? But you want to blame that and say, it's God that punished the wicked. People get things come back to them because of the nature of their... Look what we already said. Look what me and my brother was saying about how, you know, we're living in a dimension of the which is the materialization of our beliefs. Okay? And we've been made to believe there's this power separate to ourselves, outside of ourselves. And now the teachings coming through again, or the remembrance to reawaken as the soul arises from its slumber, is to know that you've never been separate from source. You are source. You see? And the nature of source is unconditional love, source energy, and that you are the creator. And what you hold within your consciousness and put a lot of conviction in is what you then materialize or experience. And there's billions of people on this planet who are not having the same, or they're not experiencing the same reality. Yes, we're on the same, we're, you know, so forth on the same planet. But you've got billions of people who are not, all of them are, they are not all experiencing the same reality. So why is it that, you know, why is that? It's obviously because they don't all carry the same belief. But if you are a part of a group of people that do, you're going to draw the same frequencies also to you. And believe that some power separate to you and above you is what is, you know, controlling and running the show. When it's you. See? And source, and the nature of source is trying to make us remember our unconditional love we're to have for ourselves. But we're not chatting about no sentimental love. We're not chatting about no human conditional business where you end up starting to manipulate other folk because you have something triggered in you that you feel you lack. And then now you want to make the other person responsible for the way you're feeling. When actually it's a, you know, something's triggered off a belief. And it's bringing up a suppressed, emotion, and behind that emotion is a belief, an idea you're holding on to, that you're still, you're still the vibrational frequency off, and you will draw that situation to you and experience it and swear blind that it's got nothing to do with you. You understand what I mean? And see, this is, and through this ignorance, this is how man and woman actually create, whether you create your woes or your, you know what I mean, your joy or sorrows, you know what I'm saying? But we don't want to take responsibility for that because you don't want to realize how powerful you are. You see, because that's really what it is. A lot of people are afraid of this great power that resides within them because you've been taught to you're taught to be afraid of a fearing God that don't exist. It's a man-made thing. Yeah? And you'll have people who will fight you and defend this man-made God. No, man must get punished because man wicked and man did this and it's God that's going to do the wickedness, gonna do the burning and all of them business there. And it's like, this source don't exist, star. That's what you created. Yeah? And then you have people who want, who's going to punish the wicked? You must have justice. Look at the things that's going on. And a lot of folk don't see that yet, but we've all contributed by buying into erroneous beliefs. Yeah? We've contributed to the flipping thing. And we don't, and then you don't even see that the things that we even would watch that other people make for you to watch. And you have a choice. You don't have to watch it. But you will watch these things. You read these things. You'll get worked up. These things outside of you, what's happening in the news, what's going on in the politics, whatever you may even go on YouTube and see certain things. You're allowing them things to tell you how to feel. Eh? And then there you are buying into and playing into the very thing you believe others are doing to you. When the only way they can do anything to you is because you comply to it. You comply to it out of fear. You understand? And And this idea about, this God you're afraid of and all them things. This is why many people are popping off now, is bringing up this questioning folk about their mortality. Where do you go after you pass away here? You still have them questions there, but you will hold on, to dear life, the limited beliefs you've been taught to keep you incarcerated in this cage. And anyone who comes to try to expand your awareness, you want to fight them down. You know what I mean? That's how some people are. And they will hold on to their negative reality they're creating to the bitter end. So, this day and time, what is happening, there's a lot of purifications coming up from the soul level. The soul wants to rid itself from the burden of the fetters, what you call the fetters of the soul. This human, earthly, finite belief that this is all that exists, and holding on to finite beliefs, holding on to finite ideas, limited. That's what finite means. And then you have the infinite. And the truth of it is that you're an infinite nature, an infinite consciousness. But you see, this type of teaching is what is not even a teaching, because we even have this idea that we come in here like a blank slate. We don't know nothing. So I got to learn everything. I got to gain from out there, and I got to learn and got to be taught and read books and all this stuff in order to gain some idea of, oh, now I know something. And that's one point of view. You can look at it like that. But the truth of the matter is that you're not coming here to learn a thing, but to remember that which we have forgotten that we knew already. You see? And it's more for remembrance, and that which we knew already was who we are, infinite nature. But we created a condition to experience some limitation in order to gain more expanded growth from it. To realize that, listen, man, you can explore the positive avenue in consciousness, which is integration, and the mechanism of that is unconditional love for yourself. Or you can explore the negative avenue in consciousness, which is separation, and the mechanism for that is judgment. Okay? And as I said, I define judgment as setting unequal measures and weights to things. So you can do that to yourself. You're judging yourself as less or greater than somebody else, or someone else greater or lesser to this and that, and you're just creating more and more separation. So, like, see, sister, sister rightly say, shifting times like shifting sands, yo. So shifting times we are definitely in. And even when we use the term of this times, that time is experienced very differently in these days and times. You see, time is really being experienced differently. You find realizing, boy, either it's fast or something I drag on. They're definitely showing you that there is a change in the frequencies, because ultimately all reality is about vibrations. Okay, the vibrations of consciousness. And as I read out a little thing for y'all, to hear it put in some more colloquial language that maybe you get, you may resonate with more than how I'm putting it across. But either way, you have, best of both worlds. But the point being, we're both saying the shift in times is what you're experiencing right now. And we need to change the structure in our consciousness that supports the way we have been experiencing our reality up to this point. And as I said, you got billions of people on this planet, and not everyone is experiencing the same reality. But you have some people, because they must suffer and them in a thing, they want to drag other people into their feelings so them can experience the same reality they're having, which is pulling them into the lower stratosphere of the material world. You're getting all caught up in the material plane of the material emotions and its preoccupations. And then now you start vibrating at that frequency, and now you start to draw to yourself the same reality somebody else is experiencing. And you have people, there's a saying, misery loves company. And you have some people that would say that if you don't feel as they feel, you don't have any feelings. Oh, you don't have no feelings. And you really think about it. Even a murderer has feelings. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you have people that equate feelings as a thing to say, if you don't feel as I'm feeling, then you're not feel. You're not wake up. You don't have any feelings. And you see, that's all stupid because you have a myriad of feelings, infinite, barometer of feelings. You see? But, you have people that want others to conform to their reality they're in so they don't feel alone in it, or because they don't feel secure by themselves in whatever they're believing in, quote unquote. So we're in a time, man, where it's shifting times for real. Thank you, Belinda. You know what I mean? It is shifting times. And just like shifting sand, can you build a yard? Can you build a foundation on shifting sand? Can shifting sand be your foundation of what you're going to build a structure of integrity, and resolution? Can you build upon shifting sands? Of course you cannot. And it wouldn't be blimmin' wise and would show that you don't have much sense if you're going to try and build a foundation upon sand. Yeah? But the thing is, this is what people are believing in. And we project and we look out there and don't realize, look, out there is a mirror reflecting back to you what's going on, what's being purged, what's coming up in order to be addressed. Because you can only transform something you own. You admit, yep, this thing is here, I see it. Now, I desire the preference. I want to change my choices I've made. Now I can see that I've been holding a repetitive belief that's been going on that is not really been benefiting me. I have to own it, look upon it, and say, yes, this is what's been there. So you can therefore then say to yourself, well, I no longer want to hold on to such a belief. I no longer want to continue to create such a way of living for myself and experience. Yeah? And for others. So then you can look and make and change your belief or change your point of view. You see? And tune into that which you prefer, which is more preferable for you and more empowering. Yeah? And give juice to that. But some of us believe that you only have one idea and that's it. Nothing else. Them rigid minds. No, man. We have to be the ones to change in ourselves to see the change in the reflection of the mirror. And I'm saying that, brother. Jammers.
Well, I think
how you feeling?
That last word, I think, is one of the most important parts of the world. Because people have a false perception of what they call God.
Yep.
They have a false perception of what they call God. And the real God in 90.9% of people's life is the mirror. The mirror.
There it is. And based on, limited beliefs, that may even sound strange to folk. What do you mean, God? You look at the mirror, God. I ain't God. But what you've been believed, even the word God, you're associating it with through the religious indoctrinations. Some people don't believe in a God. You know what I mean? And that's cool, because their mind is more open to something that is more enlightening to them, and they're more able to receive it than the one who's just been so indoctrinated with this limited idea and this false idea of what they call God. And if you look into the word God, it means to invoke. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Invoke means to call upon. So therefore, which God are you calling upon? Because there's many.
Well, I say that in the morning, they let the mirror pass judgment upon them. So God, the mirror is the God. Because you're looking at the mirror and say, oh no. The mirror's giving you a judgment. No, look at my hair. Now look right. I forgot that. My teeth. I have gaps in my teeth. Oh God, the clothes is too old. And they even shout out when I look in the mirror, oh God, look how me look. So the mirror is your God.
Yeah, it can be. If your identity is all based on your personal self-image alone. Yes, of course, grooming is important and you present yourself as best as you can. But you're more than the mask, the personal self-image.
No, some people say they are the mask. And if the mask not look right, because when they see certain celebrity with certain style and they can't manufacture it, then, as I said, the mirror is your real God. You have the book. And the scriptures, the history, but when you're looking at that mirror and in the morning, that's where you get the judgment. Yeah, and that's why you're in mourning.
I hear that in the morning, not celebration. Yeah, man, a ball. Oh, man. But you see, it's all conditioning, And the thing is, conditioning, the word itself means to make an agreement with. So it's when you buy into a limited belief and you giving it all its juice and you don't realize you're the power that manifests these things. You even have people talk about this as when they're dealing with personal motivational speeches and positive thinking. And, they're telling you, say, look, man, how you see yourself is how you're going to experience it. But I would say this positive thinking and this motivation is more than that. You can't just be positive thinking, yeah. It's more than that. And what is positive thinking? Because I already said that, when you're dealing with spirituality, when you're dealing with positive and negative, that is seen totally different. It's not seen as good or bad. But you're seeing that you're dealing with two explorations in consciousness. And based upon the laws of existence operates through the activity of consciousness, your experience you're going to have based upon your choice of whether, you choose the positive path or the negative path is what it brings you, for more learning. But when you're dealing with the positive path, it's called integrity. And the mechanism for integrity is unconditional self-love and realizing that I am an integrated whole being. Look how many people chat about they're imperfect. Oh, we're not perfect. Well, I'm not saying I'm perfect. After you finish slate somebody out, you then say, well, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but, all of them type of talk. And the thing is, the mechanism, when you're dealing with negativity, if you're going to explore that avenue of consciousness, understand that from the spiritual understanding or the metaphysics, we want to say, negativity is really the exploration and separation. And we've explored separation to our back teeth here now. You know what I'm saying? I think we've done enough exploration and separation and experiencing the consequences of that creation, that kind of exploration. Okay? You feel separate. You think out there is nothing to do with you. You're separate from what's going on in here. You know what I'm saying? This idea is separation. You're separate from you. There's man and there's God. Yeah? And God, some superior being sitting upon a throne out there. Far away from you. And you believe you're separate. You see, that's living non-integrally. That's living out of the awareness that you are an integral whole being. But you see, as a man think, so he will, this is what he will bring about. But it's more about the feeling, because we think about thinking, but it's your emotions, the way you feel. If you feel something to be true, that's when it takes power. Someone could tell you certain things, like say somebody abuses you and calls you, some racist comment or something. If you don't feel that to be true to you, it's not going to hurt you. It's because you must be believing it to be true at some level for you to react in You call me what? You call him. But, you see, if you don't feel that to be true, you see, people can call. You got people calling people of different ethnicity certain names. Certain derogatory terminologies. But look here, if you don't feel that's true to you, you're not going to feel hurt when they say something like that. Because you're going to see them more of you mostly laugh, and you have a different type of way of dealing with the situation without giving your power away by confirming to them that there must be some truth in it. Why are you so upset? They call you a name. You understand what I mean? It's how you feel. If you feel something to be true, the subconscious it's like a genie. It will manifest it for you because it does not think in a deductive way. You see? It doesn't deduce and say, hang on a second. You don't see a soil, the earth that you plant seed in. It doesn't spit out the seeds and go, oh, why you plant that into me for? If you plant it in it and it receives it and it's fertile soil, it will grow it. It will grow it. It doesn't argue about what's the nature of the seed. So the point I'm making here is that if you feel something to be true, then you're impressing that now into your subconscious. And this is how you set up a vibrational frequency for the universe to match. And then you get like attracts like, and hey, you experience the reality of the that you're a vibrational match to. And that's part of the principle. You can't experience a reality you're not the vibrational match to. So we need to get in touch with ourselves. And I know I may be repeating what I'm saying throughout shows, but yo, man, this is the damn time for all of this knowledge here. is this stuff. You is consciousness. Where there's consciousness, there is life. Where there's life, there is consciousness. And you need to explore what consciousness is. Because you're going to chat about, black consciousness, such and such, non-consciousness. What other terms of consciousness we get? We got even, licorice all source consciousness. I mean, what all of these type of terms of, now we kind of, of these ideas of consciousness. But listen, man, divine consciousness is the thing. Divine consciousness. You chat about human consciousness. You chat about black consciousness or white consciousness. Listen, man, what you need is divine consciousness, because that's the only reality. Everything else is just, you're just making stuff up. You're making stuff up, You're just making it up, giving juice to that illusion, experiencing it as a reality for yourself. But, that's how powerful you is, man. But you're not lined up to the truth of existence. You understand? There's a reality dwelling within you that is indestructible, eternal, multidimensional, and infinite. And that nature is what you want to get to. When I say about identity meaning sameness, well, obviously, when we look at what the things we use to call our identity, it's not no sameness. There's diversity in it. And that's all grand. We must express and be our own unique individuality. We must bring that forward. But when you're going to chat about identity, it's about the intrinsic identity, not the identity you're getting from outside of you and conditioned and passed on by, even relatives and, folks that have gone before you, because they're passing on their viruses in their computer programming as well, So we're the one who has to make that change in ourself, you see, and change that program, clean out the virus, purge our consciousness from all these man-made unnatural beliefs, so we can align with our integrity that is still there. But you have to acknowledge it and bring it forth and come out of this judgment, all this false judgment and false God belief business that's creating more of the crap, and you're using God to justify the madness you're doing to one another. And that's all, So, I think I've said enough, and it's coming to that point in the hour is 10:36. So it's about 2 hours. So I did start a bit late, or I started at the time I did about, say, 20 minutes after 8 this evening. So, yes, this is how it's moved. This is the Cosmic Roots Show. And, just the awareness, man, because people are experiencing some big things coming up in them. The amount of funerals various people have gone in 1 month. Yeah, just in 1 month. Yeah, this year. It's like, what? People are getting disarrayed. But you see, the thing is this. What can no longer move forward into the new has to go. Simple. Yeah?
Serious.
It's simple. And that includes the structure of your individual consciousness. If it's based upon old beliefs that are no longer in alignment with this new paradigm moving in, and you're still looking at things separately and looking outside of yourself for one, and you're just dealing with the earthly plane alone. You think say everything, you keep calling yourself a human, but us human, the emotions that come from the human ego personality is governed by the magnetic emotional bonding and rejection impulse, which is grab, smash and grab, kick where, push where, repulsion, grab and pull to you and wrestle to the ground, that's the magnetic emotional bonding and rejection that takes place in human consciousness, the ego personality that is behind all of the flipping wars and the sorrow that you're experiencing. See? That we experience down here. And we say, it's some God doing it. It's some higher power, that's punishing those who are wicked and stuff. No, man. That God only exists in your mind. That's not the source or the nature of the source of existence. That's not the true nature of even you. But you're all powerful. So to be all powerful, you can create and destroy. And as I said, destroy is really, change in form and composition, because you can't destroy energy. You know what I mean? When I say you can't neither create nor destroy energy, because you're dealing with an eternal source, an eternal nature of consciousness. But it can become anything. Anything that's conceived within the consciousness becomes its concept, it becomes that, and then it manifests. You see? I say the last few things here, when I was saying about, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We hear that, those of us who've heard that statement. Metaphysically, let me interpret it for you. It's translated it this way. In the beginning was the formless awareness. In the beginning is the formless, unconditioned awareness of being. And the formless, unconditioned awareness of being became conditioned by imagining itself to be something. And then that formless awareness, the formless, unconditioned awareness of being became that which it imagined itself to be. And this is how creation begins or began. Okay? And this is the thing.
Heavy.
A lot of people don't know that your consciousness is the creator. Y'all look for God out there and everywhere, and when it's right here.
Heavy.
You see? And this is why when you look on everything around you, where did it originate from? Everything, your car, even, all the man-made things you want to talk about.
So basically what you just broke down there is one of the puzzles of the universe in relation to you create your so-called brain manifests a process. That process comes into being, but the problem is you attach yourself to create that being, and then lose yourself. You detach yourself from your creative process, and then you come banished to that attachment with what you created, and then you're striving to get back to what you created, but you don't realize that how you created it, because you've come to think that you created it. Boy, I'm gonna be working that one out for the next month. Serious.
So you become so creation works
heavy.
through a sequence of first the law of.
I don't think you realize what you just said. That Bible, the Bible has been. That's what have been troubling people for over centuries. My man just brought. I don't think you've been listening properly if you didn't really fall down or pass out what the man just said. He's just solved one of the puzzles that priests have been trying to defrazzle. He just broke it down in 2 sentences. Basically, once you manifest something, that thing that you've been manifesting, you attach yourself to it, and then you become it, and you become banished by the thing you've attached yourself to. And because you've become the thing and you've detached yourself from the thing of creating the thing, you're looking everywhere else but yourself to try to get back to the thing you was in the first place when you created the thing that now you are attached to, and you believe you are the thing that you've been created, but you can't work out how to get back to. So Siayome, can you just say that once again, because that is not groundbreaking, that's mind breaking and dimension portal changing.
In the beginning was the unconditioned awareness of being, which is nothingness. Okay? And the unconditioned awareness of being became conditioned by imagining, I imagine, you see, image, I imagine. Yes, how you pronounce these vowels. By imagining itself to be something. And then the unconditioned awareness of being became that which it imagined itself to be. And this is how creation began. Right? So without the sequence, first it's conceiving in consciousness, and then becoming that which has been conceived. Okay? And without that sequence, there's nothing made. There's nothing that you say is created that has been created. Nothing can come into creation or into being without that process there. Yeah? That the law of being or the truth of existence. Because as I said, the truth of existence operates through the activity of consciousness all the time. And because many people are unconscious that they are consciousness. You're the faceless, formless awareness. What did you say? You said about the word name. If you look at the word name, you see the word amen in it. And amen means hidden. And in the word name, you also got mean. Yeah? Mean. What do you mean? Huh? So you're dealing with the hidden meaning of the name. Look at that. All in one word. You rearrange those letters and you see name, you see mean, you see amen. Amen means hidden. Mean is about the concept of something, and name is a label or a noun or power. Yeah? Word of power. A name, a noun. Okay? So you're all of that. Hidden within you is the true meaning behind that name. Which is another way to say it. Amen is the hidden. The hidden is to say that the hidden, amen is the hidden, and amenet is the invisible. Yeah? So you've got the twin powers always working together. Yeah? Masculine and feminine there. Yeah? And you're talking about that which is beyond the definition, which is to set limits and bounds to, of something that's summed up to a thing. It's, you're talking about the transcendent impulse in consciousness, which is really the unconditioned awareness of being. Awareness of being is existence. I'm aware of being. Your awareness of being is you, which is independent of being a body, independent of being the name you got in your birth certificate, independent of whatever status in society that you occupy to derive your sense of identity from. Yeah, your awareness of being is independent of all of that.
Boy, you're just lighting up some. My brain cells is popping being in here. I wish I brought some smelling salts with me today. But the serious thing, what we have to do, because I was even looking at, we got to throw away what people say is real. I want people to check out what the word real means. We've got to become unreal, because anybody tells you that word, run away from anybody that tells you to be real. Or, a real man, a reality man, reality. Check out what real means, because etymology means the truth. And once again, the truth keeps your mind disorientated. That's another word. We have to run from orientation, because we're not, unless you got Chinese eyes, run away from anybody who wants to keep you oriented. Because the word real means a thing. Look at that. The word real means a thing. And what is a thing?
Well, they're talking about a thing, which is a concept which you're using to define through your limited five senses. I can touch it. I can smell it. I can see it. I can taste it. I can hear it. This is what derives what's real. Huh? A thing. But when you're dealing with no thingness, I can say I know nothing. And I know what I mean when I say I know nothing. And I'm glad to say I know nothing, because you're dealing with no thing.
And the word no in Latin means to be free, to run or set free. That's when we the child run away, I want to be free. You say no, because they've given you the reverse energy on it. So no means to be free. Look at the word no backwards, you see you got something on you. If you don't know what you know means, you'll have something on you. So it's better to know, be known, be no thing, rather than have something on you. So this is the key word. It's groundbreaking. When you say you're unreal, that means you've got no parameters to your behavior. You're actually free to construct. You can change your voice. You can do whatever you want to do, because there's no judgmental, no fixed position that's put on you. No positiveness, because positive just means a fixed set of values. It's got the word sitting. It's got the word positive. It's got the word pose in it. Where actually negative is no gateway. So when you can go through the gateway, that gives you the reality of what you is. And when you come at the crossroads, you can cry what is, and that's what the word cry means. Crisis. Okay. Crisis. That's what crisis. People talk about who Christ is, but they can't act in a crisis. But when you really know what that it's manufactured our wisdom, you cry heist.
But it's interesting, because you see, when we deal with these words, we can go in so much different areas with that, because crisis is also the Lamentations of Isis. And there is a papyrus which is called the Lamentations of Isis.
Right.
And when you look and read all of that, you see that was a rotten out crisis for real. Yeah. Yeah, man. Having Asai was chopped up, his body chopped up, and be like somebody, like you get some axe murderer who chop up people and put their body parts in the freezer. Bear was chopped up in 14 pieces. And she went around to reclaim all of his, body parts that was scattered amongst the land, upon the land. But the point being, crisis, Isis, the Lamentations of Isis, is like you cry. You're in a crisis. You're crying. You're lamentating. Mm-hmm. And even the word lament means to care. And people only care about something that they now are lamenting over because they've lost it.
Or unless you've been trained to watch over something. Look at the word watch. People get paid to watch things. Security. You get a pay packet. But now you're watching things. You're caring out and bringing things and caring for things for free. So stop watching something unless you're getting paid for it.
Well, another word for watch is observe, or being the witness. And we need to be the witness, observer within ourselves of whatever's moving through your mind, which you're not. Whatever's moving through the space of your being, which you're not that which is moving through the space of your being, because it's coming and going. While you, observing it, the real you, the I, it doesn't come and go.
But you've got to be careful what you bear witness to, because bear witness means you're making a testament. It means your will. You're giving away. A will means future. So what you bear witness to, and you watch over, you preserve, and you're holding that. That is you're bearing witness. You're giving away your will. You're giving away your future to the thing you attach yourself to, because you've forgotten that you're the creative being in the first place. You end up nowhere. But if you're in nowhere and you know what nowhere is, then you're in a good place.
Well, it's interesting because nowhere is now here. When you look at even that spelling, so there's nowhere to go. It's all now here. You know, and when you're observing, you realize I am not that which comes and goes. I'm always the now. I'm the eternal now. But that which comes and goes, therefore, cannot be real.
And that's why, the real word, look at the word observe. That means you're not serving anything, because ob means against, obstruction. You know, so when you're observing, you're against serving anything else. So you've got to have that concept in your consciousness before you observe. Otherwise, you won't see, and you end up serving rather than observing.
Well, that's interesting, because you're not to serve anything outside of yourself. You know what I mean? The observer is the I within. And when we kind of get all caught up with this idea of, there's a saying that you cannot serve two masters. You know, you're going to be for one and against the other. So there's a saying where it's like, greater is he who is within you than he who is in the world. So it's like you got this word, I am. And, what do you say I am is to you? Because whatever we're saying I am is what you become. You see what I mean? Now, I am is the unconditioned awareness of being. It's not dependent upon being anything to be. Being is also existence. So when you're being the observer, you come to realize that I am that which doesn't come and go. So therefore, what comes and goes cannot be who I am. I am the eternal. You see? That's why it says, be still and know I am God. But they use the word God when it goes, I am consciousness. Yeah, because that's what you essentially is. That's what we all essentially is. Everything is, even the universe is consciousness taking on the appearance of matter. You see? So really what you are is a spiritual being. When you deal with spirituality, I'm expressing my spirituality, you can say, through my physicality. So there's no separation and division between my spirituality and my physicality. But when you have an idea of separation, you create the apparent illusion of separation between you and your source of being. You see what I mean? You don't realize that you're the transcendent power within anything that you conceive within your consciousness. You become what you create, but you also that which transcends all concepts of itself. You see what I mean? At the same time. But when you don't realize you're that which transcends, you get trapped within the concepts you hold of yourself. And
that's why you got to look at with discernment, because if you give service to something, then that becomes your master. And once that becomes your master, if you look at the word service, you're held by in the vice that what you serve under. And then once you're held in that vice of what you served under, you're not holding the vice, you're in like a can of what you're serving under, and you say yes you can. That's the cancer of the mind.
Wow, you see all of that? You see? That's what I'm saying. My brother Jammers, he deals with the etymology different to I. And he creates and this is brilliant, because you see, we're going to have our own unique points of views, which can also expound and complement and expand each other's awareness to empower oneself and the other. You shine, was it iron sharpen iron, them terminologies.
And that's right, and you point the view in another direction so people can look at the different views and analyze and create their own value system based on the different points that you get to the 360 agrees. We don't deal with degrees, we deal with agrees.
So it's all being caught up in the language, people, and language means tongue, simple as that, and lingo. And lingo comes from lingam. Look at that, which means phallus. It's Sanskrit for the penis. Wow, my gosh, yeah. It's all in the words, man.
Yeah.
And that will shake up some people. So that means that on everyone's face, you got a lingam and a yoni. Yep. And what is they? They are symbols of the creative life force principle.
And also, it's also in linger, as with the black man said, you linger too much. So if you don't know the language, you got to linger behind. And also inside the word language, if you don't know the words, you get caught up in the other words. Then you're going to languish in the language and linger behind it, unless you open your conscious mind and discern and start to, as Siayome broke down today, the matrix, that you are the creative source of everything, and you are the creator, the creative energy and the creation, but you get lost up in the creation and can't get back to your creative source, and this is where you become entrapped and banished. So
Because
this
you're
is
looking outside of yourself for this creative source. You don't realize you are it. So we you can create something, and for that moment, you think, yes, man, this is good. But then after a period of time, you hear this term like, outworn forms, outworn formats, outworn structures, because these structures are no longer benefiting and serving the soul. The soul's intention is to grow and expand and grow beyond the greatness that it already had grown into, because you're an infinite being. So you're going to grow into more and more of the infinite potential of yourself in order to experience it, express it, and be it. So what happens is that whenever there is a limitation in where now the soul cannot grow, it now realizes that what it's crystallized, something has become crystallized in consciousness, that now makes you realize that you need to fracture that. You need to change it. Otherwise, you're going to be caught up in a tight jacket as it is. So we're in this time where the what we have been believing in, and the foundation of the belief systems that's been constructed to hold us in a pen, right, is basically what now from the soul level is your ego that's going to try to hold on to what's familiar. But from the soul level, the deeper level of you, it's going to be the soul now says, yeah, I need liberation from this. So this is why you're going to get the fracturing of these structures that no longer serve the soul's best interests, in order for the soul to transform these structures and to transmute, meaning to change something from whatever it may have looked like before into something completely different and unrecognizable to what you were familiar with before, like a metamorphosis. You don't see that the caterpillar looks similar to the butterfly. No, butterfly is completely a total different, complete change to what the caterpillar looked like. So this is what, you got this power in the soul. You see what I mean? You got the power to transcend, the impulse in your consciousness to transcend all limitations. You transcend all time and space. But we first have to raise our awareness to realize that whom and what you are is beyond just this material dimension.
And that's why we've come to more physicalize the lies. So with your realize, you could realize what lies behind, and that you've mostly been trained to lie for a fee. Look at the word life. It means to lie for a fee. That's why they give you a lie sense. So you can't use your real sense to see the lie, or you can only get by having a lie sense to lie, because it's all constructed on the lie. If you look at the word life backwards, you'll see the essence of what you really are, because the original, as I said, it's back to front. So really, if you look at the word life backwards, you'll see the word E, which means out and feel, because your creative energy, you fill up yourself from within. You're not being emptied by what is outside of yourself, by giving your energy in this emotion. Emotion, it means outward energy, emotion in a traumatic state, where rather than putting yourself in motion with the motive of the motto of who you are.
Wow, you see, all of that, you know what I'm saying? We have our different ways of saying the same thing, but the whole point is that we're in a time where we have to expand our consciousness out of the limited belief structures that keep you confined to the limitations, and therefore the frustration and the anger and the fear and the, all of that is what's going to be generated inside, and you're going to act that out, And when we're talking about emotions, as you said, it's really energy in motion, simplifying it. But the thing is that, you are energy, and the feel tunes you into a particular frequency based upon how you feel. All right. So it's how you use this energy. You have to realize we're the one who make the decisions, and we got to trust in ourselves. We got to trust in the decisions we make for the betterment of ourselves and those around us. Because the true nature of the divine nature of yourself is unconditional love, and it's about life. It grows, it provides nourishment and nutrition, it heals, it regenerates, it protects, it provides and fulfills, every need. Yeah? The fulfiller of every need is your highest inspiration, all working in perfect harmony of law and order of a cosmic design, cosmic. So, so listen, gonna make it, gonna call it a night, because it's hit nearly 11, excuse me. And, therefore, Yeah, it's about that time to wrap it up tonight. So I'm gonna be back again on the Cosmic Root Show, Bless Radio, Know Thyself, next Tuesday, next strong. But look, there's a lot coming up, and it's going to be going on for another 4 months, and and another 2 more months on top of that to do with Pluto retrograde. So things may get a little dark for some folk. You know what I'm saying? But if you can realize that everything happens the way the assignment of the meaning you give to something determines the effects you have from it. And if you can realize that what's going on, it's none of it's real. Yeah, the only reality is the divine consciousness of your soul. And when you can begin to pull yourself away while you're in the material world and realize that divine life consciousness is the only reality. You love that more than anything earthly, because everything earthly comes and goes. It's not that you can't have fun here, but it's about the attachment here. And the more you have that attachment, the more the fear of leaving it. When the fear of leaving it is actually your liberation from it. So you don't stay indefinitely caught up in a flipping, tight jacket, So it's about realizing divine consciousness, intelligence, love is you. Is the divine reality, if you're going to use the word reality. And even the word real, R-E-A-L, is even royale. And in some country, I'm just trying to remember which language it is. It even represents blood. Yeah, royale. You know what I mean? Regal. And then when he was saying laga, linga, in Jamaica we say laga, laga. Yeah, laga, laga. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're just hanging behind. Hurry up, no man. Yeah, laga, laga. Behind the place. You know what I mean? So we have these terms and the words that we use them. And yes, they all have electromagnetic frequencies, colors, sounds, and tones. The thing is this, it's the feel. It's the feel. Yeah? It's the feel, which is what is the creative power. Okay? In everything you're doing. So on that note, stay true, tune into thyself. Divine consciousness intelligence is the real nature of an identity of your being. Oh, and I was talking about sameness, innit? If you're going to talk about identity and want to link up identity to where it means sameness, then you have to think, well, what is my intrinsic identity? What is it that I'm the same as and is the same as me ultimately? And this is when you go back to source, because you're pure consciousness. You're that nothingness. You're that formless awareness that is independent of being something in order to know it exists. Your existence itself. Okay? And being nothing means that you have the capacity within your formless self to be all things. And you contain it all within you. Because there's nothing that exists outside of you. Because you're the all. And all is in the all. You know what I mean? I am one with all and all is one with me. All in all. This is the real meaning of these statements. Yeah? This is what was defined as the creative power, the higher power, the creative source. Not the word God. Because all gods also dwell within the all. You understand what I'm saying? So, the wholesome and balanced vibrations, y'all. This is what I will say. Good night. Wholesome and balanced vibrations to one and all. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Okay? So, my brother Jammers, would you like to say good night as I'm about to deal with the outro?
Yeah, good night means to shine. In the word night means shine. If you look at the word night backwards, you see the word tin, and we're talking about don't follow something in a can, because when you say yes you can, sir, you get cancer of the mind.
Oops. Ouch.
Thank you, and good night. Shine, especially the young stars as well.
Yeah, man, and remember, we are all stars. You see that? And the guiding star within you. Okay? That's the one you want to listen to. So, on that note, yep, we out of here.
Boom.